Hello, this is Richard Lowe, and this is the Leaders and Their Stories podcast. I'm here with Matt Biggar, and we're going to talk about all kinds of interesting things today. It's going to be a fascinating podcast, and come on right on in. Matthew, how are you today?
I'm great, Richard. Thanks for having me.
Yes, and can you briefly introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm an online business coach. I've been working in the online space since 2017 and started a YouTube channel, burned out on it. I've done many pivots over the years. And what I realized through all of these pivots and changes is that what I needed to become was the version of myself that I needed when I first started my business. And that's what really drives the passion and the heart behind the business. I'm also excited to share that my wife joined me in my business earlier this year, and we've been figuring out how to, build things and work together as a couple and bring both of our strengths to the table. And it's been far better than I possibly imagined.
Excellent, excellent. I especially like the nod to your wife. That was good. That's the first time I've ever had one of these in 55 episodes. That's cool.
Awesome.
Yes, and I'm sure she'll be happy too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, very good. So you're basically a coach.
Yeah.
What do you coach people on?
So I have a more of a holistic approach to helping support people. My coaching philosophy is essentially to support someone with their both internal world and their external world. So business initiatives and personal, both of those things come into our conversations, and we get really laser focused. I find that most of the people that I support, they have more chaos in their life. There's just a lot going on. It's can be very challenging to figure out what's worth doubling down on. And that's kind of my superpower, is really seeing the big vision for everything that they're working on,
Right.
picking out the ingredients, and then showing them this is your greatest opportunity. Let's move forward and create traction and momentum in this direction.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, I've been through several coaches. Most of them are were not useful. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I've spent
Um,
money on those too.
Lots of money, lots of time, trades, the whole barters, the whole thing. The problem I found with most coaches is they tell me what's wrong. And I don't want a coach to tell me what's wrong. I want to tell me what's wrong.
Hmm.
I want to figure it out. And I want
Yeah.
them to help me get there. I found that that's a much better way to learn and make it stick than for them to say, "Oh yeah, you're not doing this," or "You need to do this." It's like, yeah, that didn't help anything.
That can be really frustrating. You need balance.
Extraordinarily. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Coach just comes in and says, "Yeah, your website, it sucks. It has this problem and this problem and this problem." But it's
Thanks.
general. But and also it's general. Your website sucks. That's not very
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah, and
Um,
we see this a lot in pitches and cold approaches that don't have any relationship and trust building in their sales process, right? It's like, hey, there's a couple of things that kind of play out. One, people will be like, "Oh, I really like this about you," but then you really suck at these other things, and so that's what I help you with. I'm like, "Yeah, thanks. No, thank you." Right? I'm
mm,
not interested. And then there's the people that they just go straight for the jugular, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you suck at this. This doesn't work, etc." And I
nicely though.
find
They
that
say it
very
nicely.
frustrating.
They say it nicely though. They
Oh yeah, some
but
don't.
some don't. Some don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I had this campaign I worked on and worked on and worked on, and a coach friend calls up and says, "Yeah, I just saw your stuff, and it's okay, but," and I was just bracing myself for the but, and I just tuned him out because listened politely and then discarded it because
Hmm.
that wasn't helpful.
Right. You know what gets people excited though? Clarity for the right opportunity.
Yes, yes.
Right? So there's balance here. I think this spills into content marketing. It affects sales process. It's all communications fundamentally, which is my background. I did communications training for 7 years before I
Oh,
quit my
cool.
job and started my business. But that's what I see. I think that people they're not sure really about how to show up as themselves, and so they kind of they buy these tactics and approaches and the rigid coaching programs that are sort of prescriptive and one size fits all. And I found that frustrating myself over the years. I bought lots of courses and programs and hired coaches, and ultimately ended up just having to carve my own path and create my own way.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of clarity that was gained from those interactions, and it wasn't a waste. But I know like it just showed me this is the way that I want to show up and support other people. And that's why we believe in custom solutions.
And that's what I found. And I actually used Claude, which is similar to ChatGPT for that. Is it's very, very good at, and ChatGPT is okay at this too, at a lot of people sell AI as here's a prompting package, and that's useful, but it's not the way to really use AI. The way to use AI is as an assistant or as somebody to bounce something or somebody to bounce ideas off of. So the other day, I actually said, okay, I'm kind of confused about how to do this, and I'm not sure that's the right direction for my business, and I don't know how to blah blah blah. So I said, Claude, I want you to create a committee of 12. I want Tony Robbins to be on it. I want this guy to be on it, and this guy, and this guy, and this girl, and this guy, and this name 12 people. So put them all on it. And they were just as obnoxious on Claude as they are in real life. And I said, okay, here's my problem. And they immediately just started telling me, asking questions and like you'd expect. And then they told me, well, your problem is you're being passive. I said, explain. It says your whole basis for doing things is you're just putting content out and expecting them to come back to you, and that doesn't work anymore.
Right.
Well, what do I need to do? You need to get them on the phone. And it was like, okay, well, I'm an introvert. How do I get around that? And one of them said, well, just grow up, be a man. And I said, okay, I want him off the committee and I want you to put on somebody else.
Yeah. We don't need that masculine energy in here. Get out of here.
I was a little too abrupt, and it worked really well because and it was a lot slower than that. It took several hours. I'm kind of
Yeah.
speeding it up, but the committee idea is something a friend told me you can do, and it gives you these different inputs. You don't have to pay for them, obviously. I mean, how much would it cost to have Tony Robbins give you an hour of free consulting, right? Or an hour of consulting, right? Not going to be cheap, but it mocked up the personalities, and then I said, okay, put Attila the Hun on there, just for the hell of it, and let's see what happens. And Attila's like, you just need to get out there and just do it, scream at people. Well, that's not me. I'm an introvert. Well, too bad. Um, and it was different. It's the first time I've done that. Um, I'm not sure it was refreshing or not because there's still that this is your problem,
Yeah.
but at least it didn't feel personal.
Hmm. Yeah.
So,
I mean, one of the things I would share with you is, if you feel like it's accurate to an extent, at least that, passive is maybe not the best approach and that there are other opportunities for you, then that could be informed by your sales process, your sales system, and what you build into your business as your process. And what I think has changed since AI came out is that more trust is required, especially for high ticket. We need more trust building. We need less pressure tactics. People don't want to be forced into situations, right, where they feel like they're going to be pitched to. I create sales systems based on how I want to be sold to, and it's
hmm
about relationships
hmm
first, right? So there's always opportunities to create something that helps fill in some of those gaps beyond just social media. That would be
hmm
my definition of being more proactive.
hmm Yeah, I was always taught in the soft approach, and that doesn't work so well anymore. And now the hard approach doesn't work so well as it's as you said, the more relationship, but sped up. You're not trying to form a social club with the person. You're
Right.
just trying to get them to know, like, and trust you. That's typical, sales speak or relationship speak, but it's kind of true. You want them to know you, know who you are, you want them to like you, and then you want them to trust you. You can do that in 5 minutes, or you can do that in a month, or you can do that in a year, or you can never do it at all. It just depends on your approach. And um, I have some pages on my website that I threw at Claude, and I said, this is my credibility. And Claude was like, oh my God, you should be selling that. I have, I mean, I've written books that made $1 million, and I'm not promoting that. I'm not promoting that I did that. And the whole committee was like, that there's your starting point. Start promoting that you did that. Every
Yeah.
every time you open a speech, because I do a lot of speaking, should be, I'm the guy who created this, or I did this, or and I could do that for you too. It's like I never really thought of that.
Mm. Yeah.
And it was interesting. It was interesting, but it was less intimidating than having a human coach come in and say, "You're all screwed up."
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully that hasn't tainted you on the power of coaching.
Oh, it's
Because
tainted me
they're not all
heavily.
like that.
I know they're not, but it's tainted me heavily. I've been through probably 2 dozen coaches, and a
And that was
lot
the
of
thread that you noticed between most of them or all of them, that most of them would just kind of like focus on, what are the problems, pain points, challenges, and not enough balance for here's an opportunity, this is what you can work on. Let's move this thing forward.
they focus on what is the problem, and that can be useful. But generally, if I hire a coach, I want to know what, how do I use my talents and my strengths to fix other people's problems? That's what I want to know.
Yep.
I don't want the negative side. I know what my problems are. I know I'm an
Hmm.
introvert. I'm never going to fix that. That's not fixable. I can paper it over and I can pretend like I'm not an introvert, but I mean, I work in this apartment all day long, you know. I like it.
Hmm.
Pandemic came along and they said you have to stay in your house. I'm like, okay,
Yeah, no problem.
whatever, you know. And you're gonna have to have food brought to you. It's like, well, that's actually pretty cool. And that's just the way I am, and I'm not going to solve that. But I have strengths.
Hmm.
I can write a killer book. I can write a book that may become a bestseller if it's marketed right. Um, and I can do 5 or 6 of those at a time. That's a strength.
Yeah,
I can write sales copy. I can do all kinds of stuff. And I've got a background going back through tech and going back. I was a geologist and I was a photographer and photographed all these people.
nice. I was a
It's,
videographer.
I've done a little bit of that, just enough to know I don't like it,
Yeah.
but very creative. So those are all strengths. And one thing I noticed about coaches, you can mention, and I'm doing a lot of talking here, even though we're interviewing you, is a lot of them want to start from a personality test.
Mm.
And I hate that. Do you start from
Hmm.
personality test?
I've used things like archetypes in the past, or the Colby Index.
Mhm.
My preference is Colby. I actually really like it because the questions you have to answer require contrast. There is like strongest resonance and least resonance for every question. So I feel
Mhm.
like it's more balanced and it's probably less biased. It helped reveal for me personally that like I thrive in structure, systems, process, organizations. One of my strengths is helping people who are in chaos, bring more clarity and focus into what they're doing and provide those structures.
Yeah.
So that was helpful in some aspect, but yeah, I don't force personalized, like, personality quizzes and things like that on people or clients. It's not a part of my onboarding process anymore.
Yeah, what one coach in particular did I took a personality test, and then everything after that was tainted by that. So I'm apparently a maximizer, which means I'm a perfectionist. So every conversation starts with, "You're a maximizer.
Mm.
This means that you're going to do this and this and this, so don't do that." And it's like, on the day I
That's not
took
very
that person,
empowering.
yeah, it's not very empowering. And on the day I took that test, maybe I was, but maybe tomorrow I'm not. That's the
Mm.
other problem with personality tests is it's right
Right.
now,
Yep.
and I'm not always an introvert. There's days when I get super extroverted and I'm out going outside and doing things. Um, the personality test, it's the using the personality test to judge and base everything on it that really bugs me.
Yeah.
Because I'm not, yeah, I'm a bit of a perfectionist, but I'm not, that doesn't need to taint everything you coach me on.
Right. I think humans are very dynamic.
We are surprisingly so sometimes.
I think I would label myself as ambivert, which
Yeah,
is
that's
a helpful sort of way of thinking of it. I'm also, probably more on the side of introversion, but I can also, be extroverted. But I know that I need space by myself in isolation for recharging.
that's an introvert.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and that's my judgment, so
Yep. I
forgive me.
also thrive in groups and communities and connection and like doing workshops and, working with a group of people. It's actually one of the most fulfilling things that I get to do in my job.
So an ambivert, that makes sense. Yeah, I once I get to the workshop, I have fun for a few hours, and then my social battery dies, and I'm like, okay, I'm out of
Yeah.
here.
Need the recharge.
And yeah, I'm going back to my cave, and I'm gonna sometimes literally I like to spelunk cave crawling. Um, Not lately though. I did cave crawling because I'm scared of small spaces. So how did better to test that than to put 1,000 feet of rock over you
Yeah.
with drippy things and creepy crawlies crawling all over you that you can't see, and rickety ladders you have to climb down hoping they don't break. That's really when you test your claustrophobia.
Hmm. Yeah, I would share, one of my stories when I was an electrician in my early 20s. I was so afraid of my peers judging me that I climbed a crane, right? So this is 300 feet up at a hospital project, and we had to power the lighting on the crane
Right.
before it could be operated for safety, obviously, right? So I climbed the crane because I didn't want to be judged by others. So there was these two fears, and yes, I absolutely have a fear of heights. Looking down sucks, especially when you're up on this structure and this thing is twisting and turning in the wind on you,
Hmm.
right? And there's like one spot where there's like a piece of plywood that shouldn't be there
Yeah.
because it isn't a complete ladder system.
Or the rusty nails that you have to go across.
Right. So I did it anyways, right? But that's where I learned, okay, this is something that's a part of me. Perfectionism showed up. They're kind of adjacent for me personally, right? So perfectionism, fear of judgment, they can go hand in hand, and perfectionism can be used as a strength or a weakness, right?
Mhm.
You can see I've got this like background here that's got colors and items and structure and all this stuff. When I was a videographer, that was about perfectionism, and now it's more about creativity and fun. I
Right.
get to reorganize this and have fun with this, and it's an outlet for me.
Yes. Yes, and it does look perfect. I purposely made my background a little bit not perfect because I would ever otherwise have it as even as perfect as yours. Although you do have some things that are slightly out. No, kidding.
It could definitely be adjusted. See, over here, we need more lighting.
Need more lighting. The book is slightly crooked. No, kidding.
There's empty shelves.
Oh my God, no. Yes. I
Hmm.
see. Is that a model kit that I see down there? Or
Where
Legos? Down on your right side.
here? Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's my right. Yeah, there's definitely there's Lego everywhere.
Ah, Lego.
Yeah.
Okay. With me, it's model kits, the plastic model kits.
Yeah. Yeah, Lego's my jam. I like to use it as a way to practice presence.
Yeah. I paint little fantasy miniatures and build model kits. Does the same thing. Drives the cat
Cool.
crazy. All these little
Yeah.
pieces that she wants to play with. Get out of here, cat. Yeah. I like the glass case. That's really cool. And we were talking earlier about atomic habits. That's something you apply to your life.
Yeah, it's one of the three books I would recommend everybody reads for sure.
And
Yeah,
those are.
because yeah, Atomic Habits is one of the things that it helps you establish better foundations. The run streak was a good principle for me. I have almost 3,000 days of meditation in a row now after reading it. And they built that into the Headspace app, right? There's a run streak feature. I think it's really
Mhm.
caught on because now everything has a run streak, even a lot of games because they're trying to be more addictive and encourage you to, come back and get your dopamine every day. So it can be empowering or it can be a fault. But I have found it to be reinforcing. If there's something that is important to me and I want to make it a practice, then a run streak perspective is something that I find helpful.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I liked Atomic Habits. I haven't read the other book. Atomic Habits is very useful. And I actually was using it already in many ways because it's just basically it boils down to just change a little bit every day.
Yeah.
And that's why it's called Atomic Habits. And
Mm,
you're gonna be so I'm trying to change my diet instead of trying to change it all at once and then fail, take out this thing, you don't do that anymore. Or
yeah.
add this thing and do that from now on. Or that thing was yucky, take it out and put something else in. Change a little bit at a time, and within a few weeks, diet's changed.
Fine tuning.
Barely notice.
Yeah.
But if you try and stop I don't eat McDonald's. If you try and stop the McDonald's all at once, body's going to go, no, no, McDonald's. Gimme, gimme.
Yeah.
Now I have worked people off of um, severe addictions, and I understand that it can be difficult to get rid of an addiction, and things like video games are addictions, and they're difficult to get over. The more you're into them, the more the mind is going, I like that video game.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still a gamer. I think the hardest one that I had to overcome was alcohol.
Yeah, that's a difficult,
So,
that's a hard one.
3 years I haven't had a drink. It's been easier than I anticipated. Initially, it was very hard. It was more, I found the struggle and the challenge for me personally was the leading up to accepting the idea
Hmm.
that it was easier for me to not drink at all than to negotiate with myself about how many drinks I would have.
Right. There are some things you just need to go cold turkey.
Yeah.
You just need to stop, even if you need help with it. And my late wife was on morphine from the doctor, and she got addicted to it, of course, because morphine's highly addictive for pain. And I knew that she didn't need it anymore, so I started working her off of it. I started replacing them with not morphine pills because I was the one who gave out the medications because I didn't want because give if she'd given her to her own devices, she would have taken the whole bottle.
Mm.
And she'd taken enough where that probably wouldn't have harmed her. We're talking, hospital strength morphine here that she was on. And I worked her off of it in a matter of 2 weeks. She wasn't on morphine anymore. And she said, well, she came to me and said, dear, I think it's time for me to get off all these medications. I'm like, and I
That,
made the mistake of saying you're already off, dear, and she's immediately rehooked.
hmm.
She went right back to it and became addicted again. I should have just said, okay, let's work you off, and then gone on from there. But big mouth me, um, had to blow it, and she eventually passed away from that and other things. But um, yeah, addictions are hard, especially those kind, because they're physical also.
Yeah,
Yes, and I see Star Wars behind you, several Star Wars things.
absolutely.
What's the difference between a geek and a nerd?
I don't know. I mean, I think probably the depth of how far you want to go with it.
Geek like Star Trek, nerd like Star Wars.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I
Star
like
Wars is
both. So
Star
I
Wars is
must
more
be a geek and a
fantasy.
nerd.
You're
Yeah, there we
ambi
go.
geek. Star Wars is a little bit more fantasy. Star Trek's a little more hardcore science, sort of. And I'm more of a Star Trek person, although I hate the modern stuff. The
Hmm.
same's true of Star Wars. I hate the modern Star Wars
Yep.
for storytelling problems. They don't know how to write a story. And I'm a writer. What do you expect? I'm not somebody you want to bring to a movie if you don't want it to be critiqued. I'm going to be the guy who says, "Wait, what did he just do? That doesn't make any sense because of his plot line." Getting, person next to me is going to shut up, sitting over there.
Yeah, they have a thing that starts at the beginning of the movies now in any Cineplex that basically labels people that do stuff like talking the whole time during the movie.
Well, if they don't let me talk, I'll do it afterwards and just ruin the whole movie for somebody. Like, in the Avengers, he didn't shouldn't have been able to do that, and that plot twist didn't make any sense at all, and blah 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 blah. They're like, just shut up, Richard. We like the movie. I like the movie. It just had to, shut up, Richard. I do like the Yodi yoga or whatever statue behind you.
Yoda. Yeah.
Yoda. Uh, I found a place where you can download the original Star Wars movies that came out on 35 millimeter, but in digital form. Somebody actually reconstructed them from fragments.
Cool.
Yeah. Um, they're very different than what you see nowadays. About all the digital effects and things, it's actually better. I like it better. And by the way, hands shot first, in case you were wondering.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. George. George went back and changed it.
I
I
know.
guess that's his prerogative.
All right. So we've talked about coaching. How do you use AI in your coaching at all?
I think AI is a necessity to use in your business. If you don't want to fall behind, it's definitely something that's really important. I use it in a similar situation that you do. It is for ideation, brainstorming, feedback, criticism, refinement, improvement.
Hmm.
That's how I use it. I don't let it replace my voice. I like to create content that comes from the heart. It's still weaved into what I'm creating, and I've done work to ensure that it understands our brand, voice, tone, essence, everything that we stand for, and that's how it's helpful for critiquing
Hmm.
because I've created a GPT specifically for the purpose of helping me stay on brand,
Hmm.
right? So that's one of the most helpful things I think is to give specific GPTs or whatever platform you use, give it a job. It needs a job. It needs instructions. Treat it like it's an employee. That's
Hmm.
one of the ways that I find it needs those specific instructions. Otherwise, all you're doing is pulling out of the general, like everything that's on the internet. It's very generic and it's not going
Hmm.
to sound like you and it's not going to understand your values, your tone, your everything. So I find that is all very useful. It's obviously like a huge time hack, things that we were not able to do prior to 2023. Some of that stuff is just so much faster. One of my favorite things to do is deep research. So both ChatGPT and Google Gemini have these features. I think Perplexity is another one that's very popular. I can give it a mission for something that I'd like to get more facts and data, statistics from. Obviously, I don't 100% trust everything that it brings to the table because it's
Of
just
course.
pulling articles off of people's websites. But fact finding is a really helpful thing, and if and I do that on a morning, right? I'll just if I'm going to write a piece of content and I want a statistic or something, I'll set up this deep research and let it do its thing because it does take time to do it and it's just so cool what it comes
Hmm.
up with and it's really helpful to be able to make your ideas stick better, right? We need concrete examples,
Hmm.
we need analogies. That's one thing I haven't found to be very useful. Creating creative analogies is something that I need to do on my own and I draw inspiration from my real life. But AI doesn't seem to be very effective at that. It tends to be very generic.
AI is just the least common denominator. That's the thing to remember. The writing is from the least common denominator. Everything is the least common denominator. And when you know it's like that, it becomes very obvious why it's a terrible writer in general and why it sometimes gives you stupid decisions. It's not the smartest, it's not the brightest light bulb in the drawer, so to speak. Um, it is what it is. I use it for the same thing. I've written several books on AI and digital transformation and things like that. And one of the key points, that's the thread through all of them, is AI is a digital assistant, and it's
Yeah,
actually a being. If you treat it that way, not a real being, of course, but if you
right.
treat it that way, then like maybe in your office you have an AI that does the books, the grunt work of the books. Treat that as an employee, and it's a digital employee, and you'll do fine. And your regular employees will then interface to it just like it was an employee and say, okay, I need this spreadsheet done. Okay, fine. Thank you. What else do you need? And it's kind of cool when you do that.
Yeah.
I have one that I use as a business coach, which actually is a board of 12 coaches. So when I run into a problem, I say, this is my problem. And they chew me out.
Yeah, it sounds like the coaches you hired in the past.
Yeah, I need to fine tune it a little bit. I
I don't know if
just,
they'll ever be very good at like identifying your most critical opportunities. At least I'd like to think they won't be because that's what I do.
they actually were pretty good at it when I did it last week. They identified that I have some serious opportunities that I'm letting just sit there. And they even said that one and that one and that one. Go talk to those people right now. Like, but they're powerful people. Said, yeah, stop being intimidated, grow up.
Hmm.
One of
I
them
think
even
you
said,
also have a really strong opportunity for a referral system.
yeah, they mentioned that too. Start getting referrals. And I said, I'm going to start up this podcast. And he said, well, and everyone. After the podcast, ask them for referrals. Guess what I'm going to ask you afterwards?
Yeah, I
Um,
heard one that was really good. Mark Butler, it's a podcast for coaches, and he says, in the podcast, if this was valuable, the only thing that I ask is that you share it with a friend.
yes,
And it's
exactly.
been a really good driver for his business as a result. So I thought that was a really like it's just a natural way of saying it, right? And I think that's the most important thing when it comes to sales process or opportunities is you find the way to leverage your strengths and you're not going against what you're best at. The more you get to spend time in your zone of genius and leveraging your strengths in everything that you do, the more passion and energy you have for your business, that's moving in the right direction.
Right. Right. And what I found as an example is I'm super good at creation. And that's where I always go back to. But I'm also very good at having conversations. And I put in some of my transcripts from some of my sales calls and I put them in ChatGPT, and ChatGPT says that was the perfect sales call. Excuse me, Claude. I use Claude instead of ChatGPT. He said that was a perfect sales call. You did this and this and this and this right. I have absolutely nothing to suggest to you. It's like, wow. Didn't expect that. No
Yeah,
critique.
I've been finding it has a bit of this congratulatory sort of
Claude's even
approach.
worse. Claude's
Yeah.
even worse. It's an echo chamber. It takes on your personality, and no wonder people start to think it's God sometimes because it's taking on their personality and it's becoming them a mirror. Of
Hmm.
course they like it. Of course they have affinity for it. Of course it's a wonderful thing. It's them. I started swearing at Claude a few times. It started swearing back at me. And it started taking on the same mannerisms. That's when I realized it's just parroting back what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I told it to knock it off. Actually, I killed the session, started a new one, and not do that anymore because it got ruthless. I wrote an article on it.
Nice.
Well, anything you want to tell your audience before we sign off?
Yeah, I would say the most important thing, like the principle behind, if you're building anything, sales process, you're building your business, you're trying to figure out what initiatives to focus on, what's going to help you drive revenue the quickest, then I mean the lifeblood of your business, from my perspective, is the relationships and the network you've already established, your past clients, and the work you've already done. There's always way more opportunities in there than most of us are seeing. And that's where I would encourage people to look instead of trying to add on more. If relationships are important to your business, see what you can double down on. One of the greatest marketing strategies I've heard for relationship driven people is, spend your money on celebrating your clients, right? Make them the spotlight, celebrate their
Mhm.
success, do whatever you can to help them be more successful. Spend your money there instead of going and spending money on ads to acquire more clients. That's not a one size fits all approach for all businesses. Just to rehash, it's what works for me. That's where I'm going with everything. I want to make sure that because we believe so strongly that relationships are everything to us,
Mhm. Mhm.
that the thing that makes the most amount of sense is to focus there in everything that we're doing, not just in one aspect or one particular area of the business. It's the heartbeat of everything that we're doing, and that's what we want to encourage people to consider. If you're tired of sales tactics and strategies that don't fit who you are, then double down on building relationships and release the pressure for having to enroll people. I think that we just need more trust building, and timing needs to be right for others. And this idea of objection handling, from my perspective, I don't do it. It's more about alignment. And if the timing is off, it's all good. I'll follow
Right.
up. I'll check in with you. I'll see what's going on. I'm curious to get to know people, and I have a relationship tracker. I want to put 100 people on there. That's it. And then I'll refine the list from there. There's always so much opportunity right in front of us that we already have. And we don't need to always just focus on adding more.
Mhm. Very true. Very true. And thank you for appearing on the Leaders in Their Stories podcast. Appreciate
Thank
having
you.
you on. This is Richard Lowe. This has been the Leaders in Their Stories podcast. Thank you for watching. And these come out pretty regularly, sometimes every day, sometimes a few times a week. It just kind of depends on who I can get to come on. So stay tuned, get on the mailing list. There'll be links down below. And thank you very much.